For the past 6 weeks, we have been working closely with the Maurice Dobson Museum and Heritage Centre, a volunteer-run museum that also acts as a community hub, with a cafe, shop and activity space. The project has involved working alongside the main stakeholders associated with the museum in order to provide a series of outcomes that will help to ensure the museum's longevity and future success. The museum is located in Darfield, a small township in the borough of Barnsley, of around 12,000 people. It is situated within the village's historic centre. Darfield's heritage is incredibly important to many of the residents, as the area has experienced substantial change over the past 3 decades since the closure of the mines and other industries that have dominated the local economy since the early 1900s. Through the generosity of resident Maurice Dobson, the property at 2 Vicar Road became available for the Darfield Area Amenity Society to use as a heritage museum. Our clients are Geoffrey and Elsie Hutchinson, the couple at the heart of the museum. It is through their time and dedication that the museum continues to function. We were asked to focus on developing a design for an extension of the museum. However, we quickly understood that simply providing plans and visualisations would not be enough to ensure the museum's longevity. We therefore identified a series of tasks that need to be done to help to ensure the survival of the museum. This includes immediate interventions to increase awareness and publicity. In the medium term, we're looking to facilitate the healthy, sustainable growth of the museum and help it to reach its full potential. To help ensure a long-term future for the museum, we focused on archiving and collecting existing information and knowledge to be passed on to volunteers.
For the 3 phases of action, we produced documents and a series of items to go alongside them. For the first phase, we outlined what should be done to enhance the museum's publicity. The museum's limited website presence was identified as a key issue, and we developed strategies to improve this. We've also provided a publicity pack that will allow the museum's marketing and branding to be more graphically consistent. This includes a new poster, leaflet, a ticket that can be kept as a bookmark, and a logo.
We investigated the impact and possibility of an extension to the current museum building. It became apparent that a funding source would have to be found in order for this to be built. In the second document, we went into greater detail with our analysis of the museum and its role within the community. We continually engage with the community to understand the perceptions held by the museum by a wide range of stakeholders and how it functions as part of a wider network of community and activity groups. By engaging with these groups, we began to understand how they function within the village and what their needs are. It is this engagement that enabled us to gain a much broader perspective on the project and to refine both the brief and the outputs. This research provided the base for the feasibility study, which suggests various ideas and alterations that would be of benefit to the museum and the community. With the existing 18th century Grade 2 listed building being located within a conservation area, any response has to be considered carefully for its impact on the overall characteristic of the site. The way in which the museum currently functions was studied. Its existing and potential users were identified. We began to address 3 core issues: a lack of space to congregate and a lack of storage and kitchen facilities. The client and a variety of stakeholders expressed a desire for a space in which to meet, exhibit and learn. We focused on 2 options: one that expands an existing extension to the building, the other replaces it. The new proposal was identified to be multifunctional, with a primary focus on heritage and education. The existing extension to the rear of the museum consists of a series of rooms interconnected by complicated level changes, which is especially challenging for the older demographic that mainly use the space. These rooms are small and divided by unnecessary partitions. Our first option retains this and removes a covered external space and storage building, replacing it with a new open event space. This is accessible to wheelchair users via an existing ramp. As the character of the existing extension is in keeping with the museum, we envisage this as another room to display artefacts, thus easing the pressure on storage. Our second option removes the existing extension and outbuilding at the rear, replacing it with a large, open, flexible space. The levels are dealt with in a way which simplifies the stepping to one change in height that still allows visual connections throughout. The stepping incorporates seating to be used for small events such as school visits and presentations. The pitch form is in keeping with the character of the conservation area and is sensitive to the existing building, without being a pastiche of what's already there. There is a large external space adjacent to the extension, which is currently above street level and fenced, disconnecting the museum from the town. We hope to activate this space by introducing open and welcoming steps to the street and give the museum and heritage centre a friendlier presence within Darfield.
Our proposals for the long-term planning are outlined within an included document. Volunteer and organisations are reliant upon dedicated and knowledgeable volunteers such as Geoffrey and Elsie. The volunteers who established the museum 15 years ago are mainly around retirement age, and it is key for the museum's future that their knowledge is recorded and documented for new volunteers to learn from. We produce a travel case for the use of the volunteers, allowing them to take a small piece of the museum with them when visiting larger groups. The case includes historical maps of Darfield that show its growth and development over time, a timeline of local and national events that have marked Darfield's history, item cards with descriptions of important museum objects and the stories behind them, and images to go alongside when talking to larger groups. And finally a CD containing a tour of the museum and a video archive of local memories. We recorded these during an event that we organised at the museum. You will now see some footage from that CD.
Henry Ford said, "History is bunk." Henry Ford was wrong. If we're not careful, each generation will make the same mistake over and over and over again. And we've got to stop making our mistakes, particularly on the big political scene, but on the smaller village scene.
Unfortunately, we don't always put into practice what we've learned as a human animal. And I think it's important that children should learn to see how things have come about and just not accept anything just for what it is.
We have to record our heritage, we have to remember where we came from, we've got to remember how people lived, we have to put ourselves into people's shoes.
I think the museum's good, and they're very good, the people that show you around.
I've learned a heck of a lot. Some of this stuff I never would have seen. I mean, there's things in that cabinet that you can look at and you can look at for ages. And then it's good to actually know what they were used for and have listen to stories, and especially from Jeff or when you're in a cafe and people are talking, it's good to listen in and get all the history about Darfield and learn new things about where you live.
We have established a list of tasks that we recommend volunteers and other identified stakeholders take on in order to ensure the longevity of the Maurice Dobson Museum and Heritage Centre. 15 years ago, the museum opened for the first time. Today we are handing over resources to help the museum to continue its journey and serve the community for generations to come.